For number 16, just to name it, the type of conic, I'm going to look at the equation. I need to notice that I have x squareds and y squareds. And the fact that I have a plus sign here means that I either have an ellipse or a circle. The fact that these two numbers here, the 4 and the 9, are different is how I know that I have an ellipse instead of a circle. So the first thing to do to make this look like an ellipse is that this needs to be 1 over here. And remember that I should be having some fractions on the left side. So I need to divide everything in this equation by 36. And then reduce. So the x part would reduce to be x squared over 36 divided by 4 is 9. So that would be 9 there. And then plus, this would reduce to be y squared. 36 divided by 9 is 4. So 1/4 on the bottom, 4 on the bottom there. And then 36 divided by 36, it reduces to 1. So now it looks like the normal ellipse equation that we would have. And I'm going to graph it, and then I'm going to fill in the vertices and the foci. It does not have parentheses, so I know that I'm centered at 0, 0. The number under the x squared is 9, so my x number, which is my horizontal movement, is 3. So I need to move horizontally 3 to the right and 3 to the left. These are, I don't know yet if they're my vertices or my co-vertices. Let's look under my y. I have a 4 there under the y squared, so the y number would be 2. So I need to move vertically up 2 and down 2. Now remember that the farther ones are the vertices, so these are the vertices on the x-axis, and the co-vertices are the closer ones. Here would be my ellipse. It's close to a circle. My vertices, I'm just going to write down the answer for that, are going to be at 3, 0 and at -3, 0. And to get my foci, remember that's like you would move based on what your C value is. And always to get C, with an ellipse, you're going to subtract because this is plus. So it's always the opposite of whatever sign is here. So we need to do 9 minus 4. This is C squared. So we have to square root that value to figure out what our C value is. In this case, the C value, let me see, is square root of 5, 2.24. 2.24. And you will always move, it depends on where your vertices are. You're going to move on the same axis as your vertices. So I need to move 2.24 to the right and 2.24 to the left for my foci on that one. And so I am at 2.240 and -2.240 for the foci. On number 17, I can tell by looking at it, it's already in the right format. It's got x squareds and y squareds. It's got fractions. It's got equals to 1. And it's got a plus in the middle. So I can tell based on the fact that it says plus in the middle and not minus that this is an ellipse. Again, like the last one. But at least I don't have to do anything to the equation. I need to find my center because I've got these parentheses here. The center is going to be at +2, -1 for my point. So +2, -1 is the point for the center. So I need to go over 2 and up 1 and make a dot, and that is the center of the ellipse. I need to use this number right here under the x and square root it to get my x value, which tells me my horizontal movement. So I need to move 4 to the right and 4 to the left. Okay, I'm going to fix it. All right, sorry. I graphed the center in the wrong place. Let me start that graph over here. The graph is at 2, -1. There we go. Definitely plot your points right. I'm going to move 4 to the right and 4 to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right, and 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. That's because of the square root of 16 being 4, and that was under the x. Underneath the y, I have a 4, so my y value is the square root of 4 is 2. makes my vertical movement up 2 and down 2. Now, based on which one is the farthest away, these right here horizontally are the farthest away, so these blue dots are the co-vertices, and the black dots are the vertices. And we can draw our ellipse here, kind of like a ovalish shape. And I'm going to write down my vertices. They were at, let's see, 2, that was 3, 4, 5, 6, -1, and at -2, -1. The last thing we need to do is to find the foci. Since, remember, that's going to use your C value, and since this is a plus in the middle, we're going to take the 16 and we are going to subtract 4 from that, and we get 12, and we need to square root the 12 to find out how far to move. Square root of 12 is approximately 3.46. So we need to move that far to the, depending on where the vertices are. These are horizontal with the center, so we're going to move 3.46 to the left and to the right. So you're going to be estimating that 1, 2, 3, and close to halfway there. And then 1, 2, 3, and close to halfway there. Those are going to be the foci. And to write the points of them, you need to think about your center. It was at an x value of 2. I added 3.46. So that one is at 5.46, -1, because it lines up with the center. And the other one, I was at 2 and I subtracted 3.46. So that one is at -1.46, -1 for the foci on that ellipse. On number 18, based on the fact that I have the minus sign between my x squared term and my y squared term, I know that I have a hyperbola. Since I have parentheses here, my center is not at the origin. My center will be at -2 for the x value and +2 for the y value, because remember that you need to change the sign from the points from in the parentheses to get your center point. So I need to be at -2, +2, making sure I graph that right this time. -2, +2 is the center. And I need to look at the letter that's in the front to tell, is it going to be going out horizontally or up and down for the opening of the hyperbola. Since it has an X in the front, I know that it's going to open outward to the sides for my graph. I need to use this number underneath the X term to tell how far to move horizontally from the center. Square root the 4 and you will get 2. That is like your X number, so your horizontal movement. We're going to move 2 to the right and 2 to the left. These are the vertices of the hyperbola. So let me write those down. So I am at 0, 2 and at -4, 2. To do the rest of it, we need to find our asymptotes with the hyperbola, and that comes from the y number over the x number. Since this is 9 here, the square root of 9 is 3, so that's like my y number. And for my asymptotes, which they didn't ask me for, but that's because they have us naming it, and they didn't want to give away the answer. The asymptote would be y equals, we take the y number 3 over the x number 2, x, that's one of the equations, and then the other would be just negative of that same thing. And to graph these, you'll start at the center of the hyperbola always. I'm going to go up 3 and over 2, and then I'm going to connect that new dot that I just made with the center and extend it for my asymptote. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. I'm going to go, instead of going up, I'm going to go down. So down 3 and always go to the right. And that was 2 to the right. And then I'm going to connect with the center again for that asymptote. I'm going to draw in the curves so that I feel like I'm almost done. before I get my foci here. Okay. The last thing that we are asked to do is to find the foci. And since it's a hyperbola and it has a minus in the middle, we need to remember to add the numbers on the bottom. Always the opposite of whatever that sign was. So we're going to add the 4 and the 9, and we will get 13. And then we need to square root that to get the C value. Square root of 13 is approximately 3.61. And you'll always move in the same direction from the center as the vertices. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and a little more than a half. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, and a little more than half. There's one of them. And then back 1, 2, 3, and a little more than half. And then to figure out the point, you can look here. I'm at 1, and then you need to add the 0.61. 1.61. And my y value, same as the center, is at 2. And then for the other one, you can either look at your grid and tell that you're at -5 and, and then beyond that by 0.61. So -5.61, comma 2. The other way to do that is to go from the center and look at, we know that we're changing the x value. From this -2 value, we need to add 3.61 to get the 1.61. And we need to subtract from -2, 3.61 to get the -5.61 for the other points. So you can either do that graphically or you can use the point here and add and subtract that value.